Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel and everybody who will be joining us across our social media channels. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is my host, Danny Gillette, my co-host, and we're back here on a Thursday morning to discuss some of the latest things happening with Nebraska football and Nebraska football recruiting especially. So we've got some positive trends going with Nebraska on the recruiting trail. Got a few negative ones, some few misses that we'll talk about. There's been some bowl projections. Trey Taylor's been out there at the Rivals 5-star camp. So we'll get into all that. And then if you guys join us with the chat, make sure you get your comments or questions in there, and you guys can help drive the discussion. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comments section. And Danny, how are you on this Thursday morning?
I'm doing well, and in addition to football, Fred Hoiberg held a press conference today, so I was thinking we could dive into that a little bit. There wasn't too many, notable tidbits, but it was interesting to hear him talk about this current roster.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Fred Hoiberg talk about this current team. Rank Mast. He mentioned some health updates there. So yeah, Leo Curtis. I think a lot of things to be excited about with this Nebraska basketball team. But first, I guess let's talk about some of the positive trends for Nebraska on the recruiting trail here. There's a number of decisions that are looming here in the next week or so. Claude Mpua coming up here in July or June 29th. Larry Miles. Some of those players there. So I guess the first one, Larry Miles, who's the 3-star wide receiver out of Miami. He did get projected to Nebraska by Brian Munson of Husker Online recently. So that looks like Nebraska will be getting some good news there. There still haven't been any crystal ball projections from 24/7 Sports. So we'll see, I guess, how confident, Nebraska fans can be in that, but I feel pretty good that they locked down this commitment. Miami doesn't really seem to be, much of a factor at this point, and I guess I was wrong because it looks like Brian Christopherson actually did put in a crystal ball for Larry Miles too. So we've got a couple of expert picks trending there.
Pretty good, yeah.
Kentucky and Pittsburgh are some of the teams that are kind of still in the mix for Larry Miles, but Miami not really, and they were kind of the one team that you're kind of worried about. 68 receptions, 1,200 yards last season, so 5'11", about 5'11", 170 pounds, ranked 473 in the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. So if Nebraska is able to get Larry Miles, what do you think that commitment would mean for their 2026 class?
I feel like it would be a massive commitment just because I feel like he would play, in the slot almost. I mean, he is 6 feet, but he's on the smaller side a little bit. But, like you said, over 1,200 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns, plays at Jones High School in Orlando, Florida. And, I think he's a really good receiver. And he's got tons of playmaking ability, tons of, explosive athleticism, and so Miles would be another solid get in my opinion.
Yeah, and it would be, it's interesting because they have a receiver committed in the class that's not going to be in the class, so just kind of waiting for a decommitment there. And there was some hope that they could potentially get Zion Robinson. That didn't necessarily work out, so they really do need to hit on a couple of wide receivers here. Larry Miles would be a good place to start. They've also been trending in the positive direction for Nayland Scott, who's been committed to Arizona State since the spring, and I think that this would be another big time get for Nebraska. We talked about him on our last stream, but he's got quite the offer list. Georgia, and he's from Georgia, Powder Springs, Georgia, but Georgia, Auburn, Michigan, Texas A&M, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, Arkansas, Pittsburgh, Louisville, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Missouri, West Virginia. So he's got a really impressive offer list. 6'3", 185. He's a 4-star according to the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. He's a little bit lower with on 3. But it does seem like, he's got multiple, crystal ball predictions. He's got expert predictions to flip. So it just seems like it's a matter of time before, Nayland Scott becomes part of this class. 366 overall is where he ranks. 6'1", and 24/7 has him at 6'1", 200 pounds. So that there could be another another big commitment coming for the Huskers, and that I think that could happen anytime, probably sometime this week. I think both of those wide receiver commitments could come this week.
His Max Preps profile has Scott at 6'3", so I'm wondering if it was one of the things where Scott was like, "Hey, let me seem a little bit taller for the website, so that way that could help me out." But no, like you said, he was a 4-star from 24/7. Is that correct?
In the composite rankings, yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like he's a little bit underrated. I feel like he's a really good football player. He's really physical, really good after the catch. You mentioned his extensive offer list, and I think this would be another solid get for Nebraska, and also give them a receiver out of the Georgia area, which is an area that is definitely worth tapping into at least. So I think this would be another solid get for the program. And I mean, you talk about the Southeastern Flair, Corey Barney, Larry Miles, Nayland Scott, just at the wide receiver position, and then you add some of the other Florida guys on defense and offense, and there's definitely a recruiting focus in mind with Matt Rule and this coaching staff. And I know some people are upset it's not to say in Nebraska, but I do think they're doing some really good work down south.
Yeah, it's been a much more national class than usual. So, and we'll get to that here in a second too, because there's a couple of at least one in-state commit or recruitment that's kind of going south for Nebraska right now. But yeah, so Larry Miles, Nayland Scott, and then the other big name out there, June 29th, is Claude Mpua, and there really hasn't been any expert projections or anything. I mean, Nebraska leads according to the On3 prediction machine, but until experts really weigh in, I don't really give that much credence. So I don't know. I feel like they're in a good spot for Claude Mpua. I mean, if I had to guess, I probably would say. I mean, I probably would put in like a crystal ball, not with a ton of confidence, but I don't know. It's hard to almost wonder who the biggest threats are, because you've got a lot of other teams and offensive tackles just really fluent. So I mean, if it's On3 says it's Auburn and Florida, Michigan was kind of in there. Ohio State, I think, was in his final group, but they're kind of on other targets. So I feel like if Nebraska can beat out like Auburn and Florida, I feel like they've got this one. And I don't know. There's a long way to go with it, but I think I wouldn't surprise me if we saw like a crystal ball for Nebraska in the next couple of days. That wouldn't surprise me to see, that go the other way. He did take official visits to Auburn and Florida, so it's not going to be an easy recruitment. But if this is, if Nebraska does have the SEC money, or if they've got the money to compete, this is the recruitment to throw it out there with, because they need to get a big time offensive tackle like this kind of in the pipeline. So of all these guys, of these three, I think Mpua is by far the most important. He's actually, to me, he's the most important guy on the board.
Yeah, and I think he's established a connection with Trey Taylor, and I think that's important too. So we'll see how much that factors into it. But I think we have a good shot. And like you said, if they have the SEC money that the writers, granted writers have claimed that they have, then I think they should spend it here.
Valdin Sone would probably be the other guy that I would mention as a top target on the board, but his recruitment's kind of gone foggy, I would say. I don't know that there's been a commitment date. He did take some official visits, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of one I'm not really sure about. There just hasn't been a lot of reporting on it. So that would be but if I had two guys that are my priority targets for Nebraska right now, would be Claude Mpua and Valdin Sone.
Yeah, man, and I think that takes care of both sides of the line right there. And Sone is really intriguing to me. I think he's a very good player, and so is Mpua. But when you look at what Sone could bring to that defensive line, I think he's definitely a big target.
All right, so I wanted to talk about some of the negative things. Let's see. Trey needs to get from Schluter here. Yeah. Trey needs to get a bonus check for all this recruiting he's doing. Yeah, he's definitely been very active. Let's see though. We'll see if it leads to some actual positive, to some actual commitments. I'll say, because sometimes peer recruiting, it's hard to quantify, I guess. But if
it led to Luke Sorensen, I'll say that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helped. I mean, I think that they were in a good spot with Luke Sorensen either way. But yeah, if they get Claude Mpu, I'll definitely give him the assist for that one.
And it also helps that like there's still a year out, um, and so that gives them time. But you know, on that, with that being said, there's still a year out, so things can change, quickly. But we'll see.
So there's been a few misses and kind of negative trends, I would say, for Nebraska. So one was Zion Robinson, who ended up committing to Michigan yesterday. He did take his official visit to Nebraska last week, and he got, I don't know, some fans were upset because he did the Instagram thing and tried to get a bunch of Nebraska followers and then committed to another school. So I don't know, it's whatever. But it is a miss on the recruiting side that hurts because he was a dynamic athlete, but they got in on him so late that, I mean, it probably
Yeah,
wasn't that realistic, but he definitely would have been, to me, he's far and away better than the other two receivers that they're looking at adding in this class. So it would have been nice to get a talent like that, but you understand why they ended up missing on him. Um, so there's Zion Robinson, and then of course Darian Jones has got two more projections to Iowa. So it does look like I was going to be wrong there. It looks like he's going to end up committing to the Hawkeyes. So, which I do think is a bummer because there's not very many not very many in-state players with committable offers. So it is going to be a bummer if they miss on one of the two or three that they actually offered.
I mean, and I agree here. He was never coming here to begin with. They got in on him late. I mean, they have wide receivers, so I was actually surprised when he came to visit Nebraska last week. He was kind of a late ad, so I never really thought he was coming here to begin with, honestly.
I mean, I don't know if he was just trolling though. I mean, I don't know if the kid is just going to take it. I mean, I get like the social media part of it, but he actually did take an official visit. So I mean, that seems like a lot of effort to go into just to troll. So I mean, like I understand it, and I'm sure that they're like, yeah, there are a lot of Nebraska fans on social media. Like I'd have no doubt that he tried to pump it up that way, but I have to think there was some level of seriousness, or I don't think Nebraska would have had him on campus for an official visit. So I mean, it goes both ways, but um, I think it became an option because I mean Michigan was the favorite and their receiver board is stacked, and so I don't know if there was a question of whether he was a take at Michigan with the way that their recruiting board is working out. So I mean I do think that Nebraska was a serious consideration, and some other teams really got in the mix late, Texas Tech, yada yada. I just think that Nebraska probably wasn't going to get into a bidding war with him,
No.
but we'll see.
And when you talk about which positions do they value most, if you look at the numbers, they don't need more wide receivers. So I'm wondering if they want to spend their money elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean they need defensive tackles like Valdon Sone because
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a ton on the roster that they've recruited over the past few years, and they need offensive tackles because they just have
Mm-hmm.
not done very well recruiting offensive tackles. I mean they just haven't. I mean Grant Bricks is the best that they've got under Matt Rule, and that doesn't even guarantee he's going to be a left tackle. I think he was on the depth chart at guard last year, so they need to get one of these dudes that's 6'7", 6'6", that can really truly be, an NFL left tackle and take over for Elijah Pritchett. Because right now that guy's not on the roster, and they need to get him in this class. That's the other one is they're gonna miss on Kelvin Obat, which, Oregon's got the lead there.
I mean, is that really a surprise too? It's
I mean,
Oregon. Yeah,
no, but it's still a miss. I mean,
that
you're
was a pipe
gonna.
dream in of itself. I would have been shocked if he committed here.
I mean, I wouldn't say shocked. He's from Idaho. I mean, if you're gonna be this program that's gonna compete, you got to start winning some of these recruitments. I mean, you have to start recruiting well against Oregon and Ohio State and some of these other teams. So I mean, like I get it, but they do have to start winning some of these battles, or I guess be more realistic with some of their targets on the board.
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, I'll be upset if they don't land, Claude and Pua. But I thought Kelvin Oba was a pipe dream. I would have loved him here. I really would. Such a good player. Like you mentioned, also comes from Idaho, where it's not really a heavily scouted area or a. I'm not going to say not a football rich state, but you don't really think of that as a pipeline. But yeah, no, he's a good player, and as soon as Oregon's in the mix with the money they have, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, I think so we'll see how it goes. I don't know if Nebraska does have the the NIL money, they do need to start. They need to start showing it with, especially with Mpua or Sone, because if they miss those guys, I mean, this class is going to start looking a little bit bleak. I mean, because then you're looking at like who they got, Waterman and Ainsworth, which I do like, but I don't think either of those guys is a left tackle. I don't even know if either of them is a right tackle, to be honest with you. I'm not convinced that Hayden Ainsworth has the footwork to be a right tackle. We'll see. I mean, I could definitely be wrong, and it's not. You don't need the same probably athleticism that you do as a left tackle, but
Yeah.
I just question that watching him pass block, and it's like when you watch his highlight tape, and the first like 60% of it is all him run blocking. So it's like, is this guy really going to be a college level pass protector? I just don't know if he's. I just don't know.
He's also what, 17?
Yeah, I mean he's got time to develop, but I'm just saying, like if they miss on Mpua, then that's the tackle board is basically barren, and if they miss on Sone, pretty much say the same thing for a defensive tackle. I mean, there's basically nobody there, so they're putting a lot of their eggs in those two baskets, and yeah, I think if this class is going to be what's viewed as a successful class, I think they do need to try to get at least one of those two guys, probably both.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, I think you and I have differing views on this class, but I do think that they'd have some talent in this class already, and we'll see how it plays out. And one of the guys that I'm kind of interested in, and I don't know if we're going to cover this next or whatever, is Danny Odom and his commitment and how that kind of shapes up the corner room.
Yeah, definitely. Getting Danny Odom was a big commitment for Nebraska. Just like getting him and Jamal Rule, in the same day was a big thing there. In terms of positives for Nebraska. Yeah, I think that he's a really good player. I still so we could get Sony. Sure would be awesome though. Bush Schluter. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm definitely excited about Danny Odom. I mean, I think it's a quality replacement for CJ Brona. I think they're pretty. I mean, I think Danny Odom is not quite as good of an athlete, but probably very similar in terms of his man coverage ability.
Mm.
So I think he's a really solid get, and I like Jamal Rule. I think probably not going to get Brian Bonner. So they have a chance to get Devin Jackson too, which is another guy. I mean, I
I
think
was
that
just
would
about to
be.
ask you, what are your thoughts on him as far as him in Nebraska?
I mean, seems like things are trending in the right direction. So I think they have a good chance to get Devin Jackson, which would give him another 4-star commitment in this class.
He would be a safety, right?
Yeah, he plays safety. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would be a good get. He's a good athlete. He would fit well in this defense, and he's friends with Danny Odom. And I know Danny Odom really liked Matt Rule, so we'll see if Devin Jackson can come to Lincoln as well. That would give you what, two or three blue chips in the class. I think only right now Danny Odom is. So Lanny Jackson would give you 2.
Yeah, Jackson, and then Scott would be another one if they're able to get him, and then Mpua. So that would give you about 4.
That wouldn't be bad.
So,
I mean, this is gonna be a smaller class anyway, so.
yeah, it's gonna be a smaller class. We'll see if the board expands at all going into the season. So yeah, we'll see. But I know there was talk of another running back offer the other day, but I think that was not a real offer. You just never know with social media anymore.
Yeah.
Kids will post offers that they don't actually get. So I don't know. I would be surprised if Nebraska took another running back unless they. I feel like if they're going to try for another running back, if they miss on Brian Bonner, which I'm assuming they're going to at this point, I would think that they would circle back to Nelson Wheeler. I mean, to me, that just makes sense. You've already got a relationship with him. He's committed to a Big Ten school. So, I mean, he's a legit prospect. And I think he definitely, I don't know if they could flip him, but I think he would be interested if they offered him. I mean, he took that unofficial visitor for that camp thing. Like, I think he was really pushing to get a Nebraska offer. And when that didn't come, he committed to Illinois. So if they are looking for another running back, I think looking at Nelson Wheeler in their own backyard would be a smart way to go. But I don't think that that's going to happen.
I don't think so either, but it's certainly an interesting thought, especially when you consider in-state talent. But I think that Rule has a chance to be a 4-star by the time he steps onto the field in Lincoln.
Jamal Rule, is that what you're talking about?
Yep, Jamal Rule. Sorry, yeah, there's two rules. Yeah, Jamal Rule.
And yeah, Schluter, I think we'll get Jackson
Yep.
too. Yeah, I like Jamal Rule a lot. I mean, he averaged like 9 yards a carry last year, and he played in a a higher up program. The only problem is like Providence Day and some like they've got Providence Day's got a lot of really good recruits, but some of the programs they play like aren't that great.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is what it is on that part of it. But he's an impressive guy. I mean, when you watch his highlights, it's hard for me not to question, some of the competition because he just like runs away from everybody, and it's like he's not
Mhm.
that fast. So,
Yeah.
like I do think he's got some explosive ability. Obviously, 9.3 yards per carry, and I think some of that's going to translate. I think Emmett Johnson is a really good comparison for Jamal Rule. A little bigger than he's like 200 pounds, so a little bit bigger version of Emmett Johnson. But Emmett was a 3-star too, ranked in very similar range. So he can definitely have a productive career. We'll see though. I mean, maybe maybe that speed, maybe that speed's more legitimate than I think it is, and it's not, about the competition. Because sometimes you'll see that with high
Yeah.
school, like they'll just run away from everybody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like I don't
Yeah.
know if that,
Yeah.
he's going to have that home run ability, but I do think he's going to be a really solid back for Nebraska, and I definitely think he's going to be, close to that 4-star range, or at least
Yeah.
in like the top 500. I don't think he should be. He's 779 right now. I think that's way too low.
I think that's way too low too, and I definitely agree with you about the speed. I think honestly, you might see, a little bit more physicality at the college level. Maybe he won't be able to utilize that breakaway speed because now the competition's a little, bit better than you, at least to start off. But I think you're going to see that physicality and explosiveness in terms of just being able to run tough with the football. You know what I mean? Like not like necessarily that speed, but the physical tough running that Emmett Johnson can have as well.
Yeah, so that'll be an interesting to see where that kind of goes. And yeah, some of these guys with their fall seasons, they could get bumps. Rex Waterman's a guy could potentially get a bump, but whatever. Offensive lineman, like we've said, I mean the rankings do matter, but with some of these other guys, I don't think it matters that much. When you get to the 600 to 1,000 range, you're
Yeah.
probably splitting more hairs than you know what I mean. So I think there's probably more difference between like a top 100 kid than a kid that's ranked 500 than a kid that's ranked 500 and 1,000. So
I
it's
agree.
just it's about fit and who can develop them, and it's finding those traits too that sometimes get overlooked, in the
Right.
recruiting process. So I think Nebraska's pretty good at that.
So in this 2026 class, you have, let's see, you have 8 commitments in total, and you have some really talented athletes. Who do you think needs to have a big fall season to kind of show you that they can take, the next step and maybe get even a star bump up, so to speak?
Well, one guy that I would like to see just be more productive, I guess, in the passing game would be Luke Sorensen.
Yep. Hmm.
Because I think if he does that, and I think part of it was kind of just a function of the quarterback and the offense, so
Yeah.
not all based on him, but I think just getting more opportunities to show what he can do, I think
Yep.
really could improve him from not just a rivals 4-star, but a 4-star across the board. I think he's a guy that I think really has a chance to play himself into being a 4-star recruit across in the composite.
For me, and I'm just basing it off of players who are currently committed to the class, it's going to be Dayton Rayola. I think he really needs to have a big season this fall just because of, the quarterback room starting to get a little bit crowded. So just to show what he can do. And, it's a good thing for him that Nebraska's not putting all their eggs in his basket either. But I'd love to see him develop a little bit more. I think he's going to be a really good player, but I just want to see a solid year from him next fall.
Yeah, so he's man, so I'm pulling up his ranking. He's actually 1542 now, so his composite ranking has dropped pretty significantly. So it will be interesting to see how he plays this season. But yeah, that's kind of interesting that he's
What was he
actually
before? Do you
dropped.
remember off the top of your head?
I don't remember, but I remember at some point he was like in the top 1,000. I feel like he was in the 700 range at some point, or 8 or 900. So I mean, his composite ranking must have dropped like 600 spots, which is pretty crazy. But I mean, it's whatever. I think this season will give him a chance to improve, and Nebraska's stuck with him. I mean, they, if they were gonna offer Jet or somebody else, I mean, I think they would have done it a long time ago. So I feel like feel good about Dayton as sort of a bridge quarterback in the recruiting sense, and somebody that doesn't like expect to come in and play right away, but also that does have the potential, I think, to turn into a starter someday. I don't think it's crazy to say that Dayton Raiola could be the starter at Nebraska someday.
No, no, I don't think so
Like,
either.
I think he's definitely got, and so I think that, Nebraska, if you're looking at quarterback recruiting, I definitely think you should be taking quarterbacks. I mean, unless you just really are in a weird situation and you just need an arm, I think you should be taking a quarterback that at least has a chance to develop into a starter. And I think everybody on the team right now, with whether it's Latif, obviously Dylan Raiola, but Latif, Davalia, even I'm blanking on the backup's name, Gramstad.
Yeah.
All those guys could start for this team if they absolutely had to. Even Gramstad, and so and Latif and Duvall are more like long-term prospects, but they were each blue chip players. So I feel like the quarterback room is in a good spot, and it will be interesting to see what happens with Dayton Raiola's ranking this spring if he can this fall if he can put together a really good season.
I mean, it tells me that they feel good about a guy like TJ Latif too, because I feel like had they been a little bit worried about the quarterbacks on the roster, they would have made a more aggressive pursuit just beyond Trey Taylor. So I'm wondering if they feel really good about who they have on the roster. And for the record, I do as well. I feel like Latif and Davalia could be productive players. So it's just interesting to see them kind of evaluate their quarterback board.
Yeah, definitely, and it is interesting with this class too. And you mentioned it with receiver, but I think one thing to remember, just with this transfer portal class, is you have a lot of guys that can play multiple years. So Isaiah Hunter is one.
Yep.
Williams Noweri is another guy that's got multiple years as a former 5-star recruit. He's got 4 years left to play if he wants to. And Isaiah Hunter's got 3. So I mean,
Gabe Moore, Jalen George.
Yeah. Elijah Pritchett has, multiple years, if he wants them. Andrew Marshall's got multiple years if he wants them. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
I feel like that's just there. I mean, there are guys like Dane Key and Rocco Spindler and, like Watson Trent who are going to be one and done type dudes, but you also have guys that have the chance to be multi-year starters. So, some of those positions maybe won't be as big of a need going into this fall.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're still probably going to need, some D-line help and maybe another receiver, but I don't know. Like, receiver's probably not going to be a huge need because you're going to have Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney, Cortez Mills, Isaiah Mosey. I mean, and who the heck else? No, I mean, maybe Quinn Clark emerges a little bit this year. I mean, you just got so many guys in that room.
Who's the guy from Tennessee whose name I'm blanking on? Demetrius Bell.
Oh yeah, Demetrius Bell. Yeah, and which doesn't get talked about at all because he was hurt last year, but he looked really good in the spring before he did get hurt. So, so that room is looking really good. And then if Carter Nelson could come back and, because he can be that tight end / receiver, like whatever. But even if not this year, he's still going to be a factor. If he doesn't play this year, he'll be a factor in 2026. So I hope he does. Like, I hope he doesn't have to go through a whole redshirt year. But also, I mean, I do think that there is something to the point of letting the guy get fully right and get healthy. Like, don't do the thing that we did with Fedoni and Prohashka, where like we tried to like force them through these injuries and then it just ended up, getting worse. So like if that's
Adrian Martinez, I mean, let's be real here too with that. I mean, I feel bad for Adrian. He was like lamb to the, slaughter, lamb to the wolves sometimes.
Because like, I mean, I just feel I think that Carter Nelson would be great to have this season, but I don't know that they necessarily like super need him. So if the best thing to do is to sit him this year to make sure he's 100% healthy, and then you got him for 3 full years after that, then maybe that is the best way to go. But I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him like struggle through this entire year and just have it wasted when they could have just redshirted him and just let him get healthy.
Well, also, I might sound crazy here when I say this, but don't forget about Mac Markwick. He didn't play last season. And now he could be ready to go at the tight end position. Who knows? But I totally forgot about him until somebody mentioned him the other day. So maybe he'll be ready to play this year because he got hurt last year, missed the season, and maybe he'll be ready to add depth to the tight end position. I totally forgot about him.
And but either way, I mean, I like Lindenmeyer, and I think they'll probably. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because the tight ends kind of did play a bigger role when Dana White, or I mean, when Dana Holgerson, Dana White, when Dana Holgerson called the plays last season. So I don't know. I mean, it seemed like he did find a way to. I mean, he's known for the spread offense, but it was interesting that the backs and tight ends started getting more
Yeah,
receptions too. And I think that that's just part of it is making teams defend the entire field, and just giving Dylan some of those easy completions. If it's not there, okay, find your check down and just live to fight another day. And I thought that Dylan did a lot better job of that
yeah,
after Holgerson became the quarterback. And like you just got to remind yourself that. I need to remind myself that sometimes when I play college football. 25, 26. It's like, just you don't have to get everything on it. Just take what the defense is going to give you. If they'll give you a 7-yard completion, just take it. And I think that didn't happen as much under Satterfield, probably because he's trying to run a billion screenplays. But so I don't know. My main point is that maybe Lindenmeyer will have a bigger role this year than we even think.
Well, one of the things that, actually two things that I noticed in particular was that under Holgerson, they loved to run the wheel play with Emmett Johnson, and they loved to run it quite a bit, and it was successful. So I'm wondering if we'll see the wheel play a little bit more in the playbook. And then, my second point that I wanted to make off of that was this is where I would want to see Luke Sorensen maybe get involved a little bit in the passing game at the high school level for Serviette. But also, and I'm sure you can run into this in Montana as well. There's a lot of offenses that just run the wing T and call it a day. So that could be a factor too, So, yeah, I'm very interested to see how this offense kind of shapes up and how the tight ends kind of play because Lindenmeyer and Borkacher last year, I thought really benefited from the change to Holgerson as well.
Yeah, I still kind of wish we had Borkacher, but that's one that still bugs me when we left in the portal. But I mean, I understand it. Like you gotta go do what you gotta do. But he would have been nice to have him on this team. So either way,
especially when we don't know about Nelson's health yet necessarily.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll have. I did one last thing is to get away from recruiting for a second. So they had some bowl projections that came out. I think this was ESPN. So sorry if I'm pretty sure it's ESPN though. They have Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl against Arizona State. So that would be like 6th or 7th place probably in the Big Ten. Because I think the Las Vegas Bowl is right underneath after like the ReliaQuest Bowl, you're kind of getting down into that area, like that bowl, the Music City Bowl or whatever. So I don't know if Nebraska ends up in the Las Vegas Bowl, what would you think about that? Like, what are your thoughts if that's how would that be a successful season in your mind? Say they go like 8-4 and go to the Las Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be. I mean, obviously, I want like 9-3 or 10-2, but maybe that's just the fan in me talking. But I think that would be a successful season, and there wouldn't be as much uproar from Nebraska fans. I swear, when they announced the Pinstripe Bowl, you would have thought Nebraska fans thought we were sending them to the Middle East to go fight in the war or something. It was kind of pathetic, but anyway, yeah. So I think Vegas will be safe for everybody, and they won't have to worry. And also, Vegas is cool. So, I mean, all things considered, I want to aim higher, as I'm sure you do too. But that would be a cool bowl game to go to.
That would be a nice game to get into, and you'd be playing Arizona State, who just made the playoffs. Yeah. So that'd probably be a fun matchup. Yeah, I would. I'm hoping for one of those Florida games or the playoff. But if not the playoff, yeah. See, he doesn't like
Yeah, my dog doesn't like the bowl games either, and neither does my mom apparently. So
we need the Citrus Bowl, or he's like, we got to go someplace warm.
We got to go someplace nice and warm. And
I guess Vegas is pretty warm.
But. Yeah, Vegas is pretty warm. Well, now she's bouncing around everywhere, but that's okay. Yeah, no, I think the Las Vegas Bowl would be solid. I mean, obviously, you want to aim higher. Maybe Citrus Bowl would be good. Definitely not New York in the winter. I could deal with. I could do without that again. So we'll see.
I think that Michigan game's really gonna have a lot of say in that. I think if we beat Michigan, then we're gonna be playing in the playoff or one of those. Yeah. We're gonna be in one of those warm games. So
Michigan is the key game, I think, and I think they're. I know you're a Michigan fan, but I think they're beatable.
I mean, no, they're definitely beatable. I think that's really, to me, that's like a 50-50 game. And it's going to be really fun because you got Rayola and Bryce Underwood
Yeah.
and maybe not Sharon Moore. Who the hell knows at this point? I have no idea what's going to happen there. um, I think, honestly, I think he's going to be there. I think what's going to happen is the NCAA is going to be like, we do want you to serve 2 or 3 games, but we want them to be the first of the season. So I think I think it's going to end up being either 2 or 3 games, but it's going to start the season. And so I think that Sharon Moore actually will be on the sideline for that Nebraska game.
I mean, I feel like a lot of these like punishments are more theater than anything else. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if they want him there, or if they think he's good enough to be there, then they'll find a way around it. But the bigger question I have is Akron, because isn't their team ineligible because of academics or something? Like half the team.
Just they're not eligible for a bowl game. So like their team is eligible, but I guess they're like which I didn't even know was a thing. I didn't even know that was possible, but
I didn't know either.
Apparently you have to. It's that metric. It's the same metric that they used to qualify Nebraska for when they went 5-7, and it was that I can't remember what it's something.
There was the infraction with Rutledge, the analyst. I can't remember his first name, but
this was so when in Mike Riley's first year in 2016, there was a bunch of there wasn't enough 6-6 teams to go to bowl games, so they picked out of the 5-7 teams. They used this academic requirement, and I can't remember what it's called, but it has to do with like graduation rate. But anyway, Nebraska had the highest rating out of all the 5-7 teams, so that's why they got to go to. I think it was the Holiday Bowl or something. They beat UCLA. They beat a ranked UCLA team.
It was the Holiday Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, and so so it's that same standard that Akron is so low in that they don't get to qualify for a bowl game. Even so they could go undefeated this year and not play in a bowl game because their academic standing is as a group is so low. Not that each individual like player, but I guess I don't know.
Half the battle is just showing up, fellas. Just show up to class, and you've already got a good grade. I don't get it. I mean,
I wonder if some of it, like, I'm sure there's other issues there, but I wonder if some of it, like, from those programs, because like they have like kids transfer out so much. I wonder if that hurts like the graduation rate.
Okay,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that sounds reasonable.
I'm just making things up, but maybe.
Well, no, that sounds reasonable. I don't know, but it's like, come on, like, fellas, half the battles are showing up, and if you show up to class, take it from somebody who knows, you'll pass.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not that. Just do your homework. Yeah. It's amazing when I actually went to class, I got like A's or B's every time. It's those times where I only went like once a week that I got a C or D. So
I know. I'm like,
crazy how that works out.
There's A's and B's. Maybe I should show up more often.
Yeah, if you actually go to class, it does help.
So that's just the weirdest thing. That's the weirdest thing. I've never really seen that before. So
yeah. So hopefully that game doesn't get lightning canceled and everything like the last time Akron tried to play at Nebraska. So
that's right. That
was the Scott Frost. Yeah. So it's supposed to be the Scott Frost debut, and it all went to hell. So that was a sign. That was the omen right there. Yeah. So yeah. And then Adrian Martinez got hurt, and then they had to play Andrew. Is it Bunch or Brunch?
Okay, yeah, Andrew Bunch. Wow.
I was trying to say if it was Brunch, but that would have been a cool last name. Here comes Brunch.
As he got eaten by the entire defensive line because the offensive line couldn't block.
He was Brunch for the other team.
Yeah. And then he went to Rutgers. Or was that Noah Vidral? I don't know.
That was Noah Vidral. Yeah. I think Vidral. Yeah. So what Vidral was here, and then remember, so after he lost the job to Adrian Martinez, the starting job, he went to the transfer portal like the next day. So he basically
you're right.
That's why they had to play Andrew Bunch, because their backup scholarship quarterback left the team. Like, so that was.
I remember that. I'm just laughing at it now because it's like, how dysfunctional were we? That's why when people say fire Matt Rule, I mean, I get like we're not 10-2 or 9-3 yet, but from just a structural standpoint, the house is solidly built.
Yeah,
compared to what it was.
Yeah, we got a good head coach. We got things going in the right direction. It's going to take some time to get us back to hopefully competing and winning championships again, conference championships, bowl games, whatever. But it's not going to be Rome wasn't built in a day. So I feel like he's taking the right steps, and this year I think will be a step in the right direction. Now, will it be as far as big a step as we all want it to be. I mean, maybe not, but maybe it will be. Who knows? We just have to wait and see. But I do think we're gonna have a winning season, and we'll get to a nice bowl game. And to me, that's the floor. I mean, 7 or 8 wins, I think, is the floor. The ceiling's about 10 wins and making the playoffs. So, I think I think between 7 and 10 wins, I think is pretty realistic for the schedule.
Yeah, and then USC, UCLA, Oregon add a different dynamic to the Big Ten. This isn't your mom and dad's Big Ten anymore. This is a whole different ball game, so that adds a challenge to it as well. That I think some fans, and me too, forget.
Yeah, and then we'll see tonight if Bryce Williams gets drafted. It was funny you mentioned that because I was looking at the list of like teams drafted, and I'm like, oh, Michigan has the most first round picks among Big Ten teams, but not anymore because UCLA's in the Big Ten. So I'm like, oh, even though most of those haven't happened with UCLA in the Big Ten, they're still in the Big Ten now. So it's UCLA, then Michigan, then Indiana in terms of basketball first round picks. So
makes me wonder why Indiana is so kind of meh. I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
Mike Woodson is not the best, but who knows?
Well, they fired him. They got that Darian DeVries now, who went to West Virginia. So, or no, Drake. I can't remember.
Drake. That's right.
Yeah. So
Mike Woodson didn't help matters. So hopefully.
Yeah, that just kind of shows what can happen with you if you don't hire the right coaches. They just have kind of flubbed that up since really Mike Davis had some success, but then after that, they just kind of, Kelvin Sampson wasn't really great there, and they had all those recruiting violations, and so which is dumb now because like all he got in trouble for was like texting people and calling people. So it's like
I was gonna say now that would be no problem.
I mean, it's really dumb when you look back. Like he got show cause penalties for all that stuff. And I mean, like there's rules for a reason, but it's also like I don't know. I feel like with the NCAA, a lot of times they get people for speeding. You know what I mean? It's like they'll get some they'll sit there like the police car, like if the NCAA is a police car, they'll watch teams go like 90 in a 25, but then somebody will go 35 in a 25 and they'll flip on it just depends who it is. That's what it's just selective prosecution. But I mean,
also shout out to Tom Crean for Indiana. He held the fort down for years.
Tom Crean. That's funny. Yeah. Related to Jim. I think he's Jim Harbaugh's like brother-in-law. I think he married Jim Harbaugh's sister. Yeah. So
no, Tom Crean wasn't bad.
Imagine being like Tom Crean at that family dinner with the Harbaughs, and you're like, oh, I wish I had a Super Bowl or a national championship. Or
yeah, I mean, he made the Final Four in 2003.
He did make the Final Four. Yeah, you're right.
Big Ten Coach of the Year in 2016. So
could be worse. Could be worse.
I mean. Let's hope that Fred can make the NCAA tournament again. I mean, that's where our bar is set for right now. Hopefully, it gets higher, but we'll see.
Yeah, I saw there was a Ken Palm list of team. It was like the top 50 teams in the Ken Palm in the last 25 years, and Nebraska didn't make the top 50. So, when people like when you're talking about firing Matt Rule, like when people talk about firing Fred Hoiberg, like I'm like, let's look at where this program was and where it is and where it could go. And I just hope that Fred gets the time and, the support that he needs, because there are going to be some down years. There's going to be like last year, there's going to be years like that, which sucked because we had Bryce Williams, one of our best players ever. And we still won the crown though. So, but I do have high hopes for this team making the NCAA tournament. As long as Nebraska's winning, having a winning season, winning close to 20 games as a basketball fan, I'm going to be happy for the most part though. Like my expectations aren't that high.
Hey, you know what? Go volleyball. When all else fails, go volleyball. And they look good. The ladies look good this year. They should have another loaded team.
Which meant my expectations for them are national championship or bust. So
I know it's kind of weird the paradox that you have the juxtaposition with the programs. You got one team who can't make the NCAA tournament. You got another team that's looking to get to at least 9 wins, and then you got another program that has national championship aspirations. So
yeah, so it'll be interesting, and then. The wrestling team looks pretty solid this year. I think softball's looking good. So
baseball's
got to get
getting in the transfer portal. They got one last night. That I forget the name. You probably know.
It was oh gosh, I should know. But a first baseman from Southern Indiana hit like 365 last year. Yeah. I think it was like Hitchens or something.
Yeah,
I'll have to check.
They're doing okay in the portal. I mean, they've lost a lot of guys, but I think they're doing okay in the portal. I'd love to see a little bit more in terms of pitching. I know they made a lot of pitching additions, but None of them really stand out to me. I don't know about you. Like, I'd kind of want a little bit more on the pitching front.
Cole Kitchens is the kid's name. Yeah, I feel okay about the pitching just because, with McConaughey and Ty Horn
That's
and
true. Yeah.
Timmerman
Yep.
and Broderick. So I feel okay. I feel like the offense is going to be, but I mean, Will Bolt's kind of an offensive specialist. So I feel like this team has a good chance to be even better next year in baseball. So we'll see.
You have to be, honestly. I think this is a big year for Will Bolt. Not to start the fire Will Bolt thing, but I do think from just a performance standpoint, this is a big year for him.
Yeah, because I mean, the last 2 years have been, I would say, disappointing, but salvaged by winning the Big Ten tournament. But if you look at the past 2 seasons, if they don't win that tournament, they don't make the NCAA
Yep.
tournament, and there's a very different feel about this program. So it's been great to have those runs, and they did close the season strong. I'll give them credit for that, but they have to do better in the midweek games, and they have to start the season better. They just have to.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So,
you hit the nail right on the head. They closed the season strong. It was everything else before that was kind of a struggle. So I mean, I would love to be in a position where we don't have to close strong and go on these fun but tough runs.
of course, if our ace pitcher
Yeah.
can avoid getting a season-ending injury in the first month, that will also be beneficial. So
yeah, true.
all right, you guys, well, I got to hit the road, so we'll wrap up here. But if you haven't already, please hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button. Get in the comment section if you're watching on the replay, and thanks for hanging out with us, and as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.